Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Tanvi Taneja. Coming up in the next hour. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi holds bilateral talks with Bangladeshi counterpart Sheikh Hasina in New Delhi. E-medical visas for Bangladeshis, agreements on blue economy, space, digital and green partnership exchanged. India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman provides relief to taxpayers. GST exemptions provided for some railway services and hostel students at the 53rd GST Council meet in New Delhi. UK reform leader Nigel Farage says the West provoked Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine by moving eastwards. Prime Minister Sunak calls his comments completely wrong, accusing him of appeasement. And proposed European Union tariffs on Chinese goods are not a punishment, and the door of the European Union is open for discussions, says German Economy Minister on his visit to Shanghai, China. Prime Minister of Bangladesh Sheikh Hasina and India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi held bilateral talks in New Delhi today. Both the sides exchanged 10 agreements on a range of issues. DD India's Munmun Bhattacharya reports from New Delhi.
A warm handshake between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his Bangladeshi counterpart Sheikh Hasina at Hyderabad House in New Delhi. Sheikh Hasina is the first head of government on an incoming bilateral state visit after the formation of the new government in India. Both leaders held wide-ranging talks and exchanged 10 agreements in the areas of blue economy, health, space, railway connectivity, oceanography, disaster management, fisheries and strategic operations studies, besides shared vision on green and digital partnerships.
अखौड़ा अगरतला के बीच भारत बांग्लादेश का छठा क्रॉस बॉर्डर रेल लिंक शुरू हो गया है। खुलना मोंगला पोर्ट द्वारा भारत के उत्तर पूर्वी राज्यों के लिए कार्गो सुविधा शुरू की गई है। मोंगला पोर्ट को पहली बार रेल से जोड़ा गया है। 1320 मेगावाट मैत्री थर्मल पावर प्लांट के दोनों यूनिट्स ने बिजली उत्पादन शुरू कर दिया है। दोनों देशों के बीच भारतीय रुपये में ट्रेड की शुरुआत हुई है। भारत बांग्लादेश के बीच गंगा नदी पर दुनिया की सबसे लंबी रिवर क्रूज को सफलतापूर्वक पूरा किया गया है। भारत बांग्लादेश के बीच पहली क्रॉस बॉर्डर फ्रेंडशिप पाइपलाइन पूरी की गई है। भारतीय ग्रिड से होते हुए नेपाल से बांग्लादेश तक बिजली निर्यात ऊर्जा क्षेत्र में सब रीजनल सहयोग का पहला उदाहरण बना है। एक ही वर्ष में इतने सारे एरियाज में इतने बड़े इनिशिएटिव्स को जमीन पर उतारना हमारे संबंधों के स्पीड और स्केल को दर्शाता है।
India's PM announced a Maitri satellite besides the start of an e-medical visa service for the people of Bangladesh to enable them to take treatment in India. India will also be setting up an assistant high commission in Bangladesh's Rangpur. India will be sending a technical team to Bangladesh soon for conservation and management of Teesta River waters, besides beginning talks on a comprehensive economic partnership agreement with Bangladesh. Bangladesh's Prime Minister noted that a visit to India is taking place at an unprecedented second time in the same month, June 2024.
I am now visiting New Delhi for an unprecedented second time in the same month, June 2024. Earlier, on June 9, I attended with other world leaders the swearing-in ceremony of Prime Minister Modi and his new cabinet. These are testaments to our two countries' close engagement.
The visiting leader began her official engagements on Saturday by paying respects to Mahatma Gandhi at Rajghat. She was then accorded a ceremonial reception at Rashtrapati Bhavan. Later in the day, she called on the President of India and the Vice President of India in New Delhi. During talks between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina at Hyderabad House in New Delhi, the focus was on laying out a futuristic vision for this partnership, a partnership that is both green and digital and from which the youth of both the countries benefit. It is also extremely important to note here that Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina will be going to China in July but decided to come to India within a span of 15 days ahead of that visit. With cameraman Anil Thakur, this is Munman Bhattacharya from New Delhi for DD India.
India and Bangladesh agreed to start talks on the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement (CEPA) to take forward their economic ties. India's Foreign Secretary Vinay Kwatra said that CEPA negotiation will commence at an early date.
Starting a new passenger train is the largest market for Bangladeshi products in Asia, and in this respect we hope to commence the CEPA negotiation at an early date and open also new border hearts. You will find a mention of that in the vision document for the benefit of people living along the borders. I think both sides have held initial technical discussions to better understand how they want to position the respective set of goods, perhaps even services, and other trade facilitation related measures in CEPA. And I think once those initial lists have been analyzed in great details, as I said, the CEPA negotiations we hope would commence at an early date.
India's Foreign Secretary also said that the trial run of the goods train on Bangladesh Railway from Doordarshan to Haldibardi-Chilahati cross-border interchange point is planned for next month. This will help in sub-regional connectivity with Bhutan.
We are starting a new passenger train service between Rajshahi and Kolkata, while trial run for a goods train on Bangladesh Railway from a place called Gede Darshana to Haldibari Chilahati cross-border interchange point is planned for next month sometime. This will also help sub-regional connectivity with Bhutan. We'll also be starting another bus service which will be between Kolkata and Chittagong.
India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman chaired the 53rd GST Council meeting in New Delhi. This was the first meeting of the GST Council after the formation of the new government. The GST Council recommended certain exemptions related to accommodation services, providing reliefs to students and working professionals. The GST Council also recommended waiving interest and penalties for demand notices issued under Section 73 of this GST Act.
There was a decision taken today and the GST Council recommended waiving interest and penalties for demand notices that have been issued under Section 73 of the GST Act. What are the items which are under Section 73? Cases not involving fraud, suppression or misstatements. So, for all those notices which were issued under Section 73, for the fiscal years 2017-18, 18-19 and 19-20, the Council has recommended waiving interest and penalties on the demand notices which have been served. And this will be applicable in cases where the taxpayer pays the full amount of tax demanded in the notice by 31/3/2025.
Besides, the GST Council also recommended exemption of certain services provided by Indian Railways to the common man and also intra-railway supplies.
Sale of platform tickets, facility of retiring rooms, waiting rooms, cloakroom services, battery-operated car services are being exempted from GST. Further, intra-railway supplies are also being exempted.
Earlier in the day, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman also chaired pre-budget meeting with finance ministers of states and union territories and sought their suggestions for the upcoming Union Budget 2024-25. On to West Asia now. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has expressed deep concern over the rising tensions between Israel and Lebanon's Hezbollah. He stated that peacekeepers are working to calm the situation. Amid all this, Israeli troops are intensifying their operations in Gaza. The Israeli army released a video on Friday showing ground troops operating in Gaza and an aerial strike targeting Hamas compounds. A report.
UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has expressed deep concern over the rising tensions between Israel and Lebanon's Hezbollah.
I felt compelled today to voice my profound concerns about escalation between Israel and Hezbollah along the blue line. Escalation in continued exchanges of fire and escalation in bellicose rhetoric from both sides, as if an all-out war was imminent. The risk for the conflict in the Middle East to widen is real and must be avoided.
On the other hand, Israeli airstrikes over the Hamas targets continue. A video released by the Israeli army shows soldiers locating weapons in a university, eliminating armed militants and destroying infrastructure.
The brigade is now fighting, now in the central Gaza Strip, in very significant way. The tension is very high. Our fighters are eliminating the enemy wherever it is, and we are damaging its weapons, buildings and infrastructure.
Hamas too released a footage reportedly showing attack on Israeli army base. The footage displays rockets being launched at the base, targeting vehicles and soldiers in Gaza City. Israel's ground and air campaign was triggered when Hamas-led militants stormed into southern Israel on October 7, killing around 1,200 people.
You're with us on DD India News are still to come on the show. Russian bombs kill 3 in Ukraine's second largest city of Kharkiv. Putin says will keep developing nuclear weapons. US Supreme Court upholds federal gun ban for those under domestic violence restraining orders. And a joint Sino-French satellite has been launched into orbit to study the farthest explosion of stars.
Voice of a rising aspirational world. Stories of challenges, struggles and accomplishment. A world battling conflict, hunger and poverty. Embracing growth, development, science and technology. A voice of progress, a voice of unity. Watch Voice of the Global South with me, Akshay Dongre, only on DD India.
We just don't bring you the news as it unfolds. We get to the heart of the matter.
We don't just present facts. We demystify complex social, political and economic events.
We break stories that shape the world's present and future because you deserve the truth.
I am Tanvi Taneja from New Delhi.
I'm Ollie Barrett from London.
I'm Nick Harper from Washington, D.C.
Join us on DD India Global Monday to Friday at these times.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I am Tanvi Taneja. On to the Russia-Ukraine conflict now. Russia launched new missiles and drones in an overnight attack on Ukraine on Saturday that has damaged energy facilities in the southeast and west regions of Ukraine. Facilities in Zaporozhye region in the southeast and Lviv region in the west were damaged by the strikes. Meanwhile, Ukraine claimed to have shot down 12 missiles and all 13 drones launched by Russia. Moscow has said its airstrikes against the Ukrainian energy infrastructure were in retaliation for the Ukrainian drone attacks on the Russian territory. President Vladimir Putin said on Friday that Russia would keep developing its arsenal of nuclear weapons, the world's largest, as a deterrent and would supply the army fighting in Ukraine with the latest weaponry and drones. Putin reiterated that Russia will develop this nuclear arsenal to preserve global balance of power. Putin was speaking at Kremlin at a ceremony attended by graduates of military, police and intelligence service academies.
We plan to develop the nuclear triad as a guarantee of strategic deterrence and to preserve the balance of power in the world. We will strengthen the potential and increase the combat capabilities of all the branches and service of our armed forces.
And India's Dasha Chernyshova now joins us from Moscow. Dasha, we know Russian airstrikes have damaged the power facilities in Ukraine, but how serious has the damage been from Ukrainian military's drone attack on 3 oil refineries inside southern Russia? Dasha, if you can hear me, how far has the damage been on the oil refineries inside southern Russia? Seems like we are having some trouble connecting with Dasha at the moment. The visuals on your screen are of the overnight drone attack by Russia in Ukraine. Well, retaliatory attacks are continuing between Russia and Ukraine. Vladimir Putin yesterday hinted to the West that they are ready to talk, but there were certain conditions laid out, and it was said that Ukraine must be on the agenda. Russian bombs have killed 3 in Kharkiv, and of course these airstrikes have damaged Ukrainian power facilities. And we are now going to connect with Dasha again. Dasha Chernyshova joining us from Moscow. Dasha, how serious has the damage been from Ukraine's military drone attack inside southern Russia?
Well, we are hearing about the intensification of the Ukrainian drone attacks against the Russian oil refineries. However, many analysts are also noting that they are quite different from what they have seen back in spring. We don't have detailed information with regard to how serious that damage is, but what the analysts note is that in spring there were attacks against the catalytic cracking units on the Russian oil refineries. Those strikes were paralyzing the entire work of the oil refineries inside Russia. Now we understand that these attacks have less impact, and they are reported as fire that is engulfing and then fire that is being extinguished. So disturbing and disrupting the works locally in the region, but not affecting the oil prices globally. That does seem to be the concern of many worldwide, as Ukraine was striking the Russian oil refineries back in spring, for instance. But at the same time, keep in mind that the Russian Ministry of Defense also has confirmed that overnight they have carried out strikes against the Ukrainian military facilities as a revenge against those strikes of the Ukrainian military on the Russian oil refineries. We understand those strikes were carried out with Russia's high-precision long-range weapons.
Okay. And Russia has said that talks with the United States are very much required as global ramifications of this conflict are piling up. Could you tell us the conditions laid out by Russia for these talks, and can we expect them soon?
Well, Russia's position has not changed with regard to the strategic talks with the United States. Russia insists that those talks have to be all-encompassing. They have to include numerous and complex issues that have been piling up, as you have mentioned. They have to include also the issues that are related to Ukraine and obviously the establishment of the multipolarity, as Moscow has been constantly reminding of. So speaking about the possibility of those talks, we're also hearing from the Russian officials that at the moment the Western powers are unlikely to engage into those negotiations. But Russia's reminders about those talks and Russia's peace initiatives, as Moscow describes the plan that Russian president has recently outlined for Ukraine to get back to the negotiating table, do seem to be an invitation for the Western politicians to reconsider their stance, first of all on Ukraine, and then more widely in the context of the entire security architecture, be it globally or in Eurasia.
Dasha, Vladimir Putin has also said that Russia will keep developing its nuclear arsenal to preserve the global balance of power. Will this increase the possibility of a nuclear warfare?
Russia says that having nuclear weapons is the guarantee of Russia's territorial sovereignty, integrity and sovereignty. So Russia has never interrupted the process of developing and upgrading its so-called nuclear triad. So this work will only continue. In the meantime, we're again hearing from the Russian officials the possibility of making amendments to Russia's nuclear doctrine, because in Russia, on the contrary, officials say they are seeing how the threshold for the use of these type of weapons is being lowered, but by the Western countries. So for Russia, again, this issue does seem to be one of the cards that the Russian officials constantly remind of. But at the same time, they also try to play down the meaning of that, saying that Russia is a responsible nuclear power. So we are likely to hear more about this, but certainly the understanding is that Russia constantly develops its nuclear weapons.
Dasha Chernyshova in Moscow, thank you. Russian President Vladimir Putin on Saturday laid a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier on the Kremlin wall in Moscow to mark the anniversary of the invasion of the Soviet Union by Nazi Germany on June 22, 1941. Adolf Hitler's campaign against the Soviet Union was launched by a force known as Barbarossa, which was the largest and most powerful invasion force in human history. It was the beginning of a campaign that would ultimately decide the Second World War. During the ceremony, Putin was joined by the newly appointed Russian Defense Minister Andrei Belousov, as well as war veterans, acting military personnel and military university graduates. On to Europe now. The leader of Britain's right-wing Reform UK party, Nigel Farage, said that the eastward expansion of the European Union and NATO had provoked Russian President Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine. The remarks drew strong criticism across the British political spectrum ahead of a July 4th election in which Farage's party is predicted to win millions of votes. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak said Farage was completely wrong, accusing him of appeasement that put Britain and its allies' security at risk. Labour's defence spokesman John Haley called Farage's comments disgraceful and labelled him a Putin apologist. Farage later posted on X, Putin was wrong to invade a sovereign nation and the EU was wrong to expand eastwards. The sooner we realise this, the closer we will be to ending the war and delivering peace. And DD India's Ollie Barrett joins us from London on the story. Ollie, summarise for us the reception to these comments of Farage across the British political spectrum.
Well, Tanvi, Nigel Farage is being attacked, as you've been setting out, from across the British political spectrum. The Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, has criticised his comments and said that they are wrong. The Labour Party leader, Keir Starmer, who may well be the country's Prime Minister after July the 4th, has called Nigel Farage's comments disgraceful and disgusting. We've been hearing the description of Nigel Farage as a Putin apologist by, among others, Ed Davey, the leader of the Liberal Democrats, the former UK Defence Secretary Ben Wallace, who's actually not standing to retain his seat in the House of Commons as a Conservative MP in this election and therefore is perhaps free to speak as he likes. He has described Nigel Farage and his comments as those of a pub bore. As you were saying, Nigel Farage himself has defended his position. He insists that this is not something that he's going to be backing away from or apologising for because of all the criticism that he has been receiving. He also insists that these are warnings that he's been making for some time. He says that he was warning that the NATO expansion into parts of Eastern Europe and Balkan states and also into Scandinavia, but also European Union expansion eastwards, he says he's been warning for years that that could lead to something like the Russian invasion of Ukraine. But that position, as you say, is being roundly attacked across the rest of the British political spectrum.
And Ollie, this marks the first general election contested by the Reform UK party. How far do you think Farage's comments could affect the Reform Party's poll prospects?
It's difficult to say at this point, and we'll have to keep an eye on the polls in the coming days to see if these comments and the response to them have made any difference to the way voters are thinking. It should be said that many reform supporters or people who are minded to potentially vote reform may well agree with the position that Nigel Farage has set out today. It's been notable in radio phone-ins in the UK, for example, today, that there have been people calling in and expressing their agreement with the position that Nigel Farage has taken. So whether this dents or even helps Reform UK in the polls remains to be seen. As you say, the first election that the party has contested, it's worth reminding ourselves that given the UK's first past the post electoral constituency voting system, it could well be that if you see Reform coming second or third in seats across the country and bringing home a percentage of votes like 15 to 20% of the entire national vote, it's still entirely possible that Reform may well only end up with 1 or 2 or 3 or even none at all MPs in the House of Commons come July the 5th. So that is just worth reminding ourselves of. But certainly in terms of the effect on voters in their minds of the comments that Nigel Farage has made, I think it'll be a few days before we start to get a sense of whether it's made any impact on polls.
Thank you, Ollie. Ollie Barrett reporting for us from London. On to the US now. In a mass shooting incident reported in the southern US state of Arkansas, at least 3 people were killed and 8 others injured outside a grocery store. Those injured included a law enforcement officer and also the shooter, who is critical and has been taken into custody. Emergency services were swiftly dispatched to the scene, providing urgent medical attention to the injured. Meanwhile, the US Supreme Court on Friday upheld a federal law that prevents people who are prone to domestic violence from having firearms. It is among the first major Second Amendment decision since the 2022 ruling that expanded gun rights. Back to Asia. Germany's Vice-Chancellor Robert Habeck attended an event marking the 30th anniversary of the German Chambers of Commerce's Greater China Division in Shanghai on Saturday. Habeck, who is also Minister for Economic Affairs, is in China on an official 3-day visit which started on Friday. His visit to China is the first by a senior European official since Brussels proposed hefty duties on imports of Chinese-made electric vehicles to combat what the EU considers excessive subsidies. Robert Habeck, however, said that these hefty levies on Chinese imports are not a punishment and that the EU is open for discussions with China. You're with us on DD India News Hour, still to come on the show. India-Bangladesh signed 10 pacts to boost ties as Prime Minister Hasina concludes her India visit. We discuss the value of the partnership with our esteemed guest. Amid the paper leak controversy, Indian government notifies a stringent law to curb irregularities in exam. And in Turkey, a massive wildfire has killed 12 people and injured over 75 as it swept through the predominantly Kurdish southeast.
Let's take a look at what are the benefits that come when we let the nature do its own thing.
It was a dumping ground. So we suggested rather than doing something ornamental, why not let's plant something, to grow something edible.
Our vision is to make this into a native woodland, a natural woodland that would have been here in the past. So oak, birch, hazel, rowan, holly, all the tree species you'd expect. And the ground is good ground. The trees will do well here.
Palmyra bags, it negates the destruction of the root structure because we do not remove these bags. Over a period of few weeks, it gets totally degraded and mixes with the soil, which also avoids the plastic pollution.
But these are plants that are used to the climate or the environment that they grow. If you didn't water these plants for 3 days, they still know how to grow well and survive.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I am Tanvi Taneja. A quick look at the headlines we're tracking at this hour. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi holds bilateral talks with his Bangladeshi counterpart Sheikh Hasina in New Delhi. E-medical visas for Bangladeshis, agreements on blue economy, space, digital and green partnership exchanged. India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman provides relief to taxpayers, GST exemptions provided for some railway services and hostel students at the 53rd GST Council meet in New Delhi. And UK reform leader Nigel Farage says the West provoked Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine by moving eastwards. Prime Minister Sunak calls his comments completely wrong, accusing him of appeasement. On to our top story, India's links with Bangladesh are civilizational, cultural, social and economic. During the last 10 years, both countries have seen enhanced connectivity as several bus and train routes have become operational. Besides the development partnership, trade and business ties have also improved between India and Bangladesh. We have a report. India's links with Bangladesh are civilizational, cultural, social and economic.
In order to turn this relationship into transformational partnership and, as I said, give a new direction, a new impetus, both leaders jointly agreed to the India-Bangladesh shared vision for future, enhance connectivity, commerce and collaboration for shared prosperity.
Bangladesh is the biggest development partner of India. India has extended 3 lines of credits to Bangladesh in the last 8 years, amounting to around $8 billion for development of infrastructure in various sectors. The government of India has also been providing grant assistance to Bangladesh for various infrastructure projects, including construction of Akhoda-Agartala rail link, dredging of inland waterways in Bangladesh, and construction of India-Bangladesh Friendship Pipeline. India has funded 74 high-impact community development projects, including construction of student hostels, academic buildings, skill development and training institutes, cultural centres and orphanages in Bangladesh. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Prime Minister of Bangladesh Sheikh Hasina jointly inaugurated 3 Indian-assisted development projects on 1st of November last year. These 3 projects are Khulna-Mongla Rail Link, Unit 2 of the Maitri Power Plant and Agartala-Akhoda Rail Link. Bangladesh is India's biggest trade partner in South Asia and India is the second biggest trade partner of Bangladesh in Asia. Bangladesh exported $1.97 billion of goods to India in fiscal year 2023-24. In fiscal year 2022-23, the total bilateral trade has been reported at $15.9 billion. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina inaugurated the India-Bangladesh Startup Bridge in March 2021. Several bus and train routes connecting the two countries have been operationalized. Efforts for greater connectivity to forge enduring people-centric partnership have resulted in rehabilitation of 6 pre-1965 rail links between India and Bangladesh. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina inaugurated the 6th cross-border rail link between Agartala station in India and Akhoda in Bangladesh on 1st of November last year. Both countries have operationalized the agreement for the usage of Chittagong and Mongla ports in 2023. The ratification of Land Boundary Agreement of 1974 and its protocol of 2011 resulted in the exchange of 111 Indian enclaves in Bangladesh with 51 Bangladeshi enclaves in India. On 9th of June this year, Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina had attended the swearing-in ceremony of the Prime Minister and the Union Council of Ministers. With Fuzail Ahmed, Tanvi Taneja for DD India. And now we have an esteemed guest joining us. Veena Sikri, who served as India's High Commissioner to Bangladesh, joins us. Welcome, Ambassador Sikri, to the show. Sheikh Hasina is the first head of government to make a bilateral state visit to India after the formation of the Prime Minister Narendra Modi's third-term government. Earlier, Sheikh Hasina, along with leaders of the 5 other South Asian countries, had been invited to the swearing-in ceremony of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his Council of Ministers as well. So what is the central message that India is sending out as regards its South Asia policy, especially in the context of China factor?
Well, I must say, first of all, that this is a very important visit by Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. She's the first foreign dignitary to visit India in Prime Minister Modi's third term as Prime Minister. Now, there are, so many multiple linkages that bind India and Bangladesh close together that have evolved in the last few years. Bangladesh is a very key factor in India's neighborhood first foreign policy. I think the model relationship that has grown over the last 10 years between India and Bangladesh is something which all the rest of the world, the rest of South Asia, everybody can be proud of. It's a valuable example of how we have overcome any problems of history. We have taken benefit of our nearness in geography and created connectivity links, train links, which we have just spoken about in your coverage. So first, neighborhood first policy. Second, Bangladesh is a key factor in India's Act East policy because Bangladesh is an important link between South Asia and Southeast Asia. And India and Bangladesh are developing this through BIMSTEC. The headquarters of BIMSTEC is based in Bangladesh. Then Bangladesh is a key factor in India's Sagar policy, security and growth for all in the region. So security issues are very, very valuable and important, and we talk about it all the time. And this time we've got maritime issues also that have come on board. India and Bangladesh have agreed on maritime cooperation, blue economy cooperation. So this is a very valuable issue, the Sagar initiative cooperation between India and Bangladesh. And another key factor that has today come to the fore is Bangladesh's role in the Indo-Pacific initiative. India, as you know, is a member of Quad, but Bangladesh has today agreed to join the Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative. So that shows that Bangladesh is now much keener on the Indo-Pacific cooperation than they were earlier. And this brings me to what you asked about China, because earlier, last year, a year or so ago, when Bangladesh government brought out their Indo-Pacific policy, a policy paper that they prepared on the Indo-Pacific initiative, China had taken strong objection and even said that, if Bangladesh gets involved in this, it will not be good for relationship with China and so on. So I attach a lot of importance to Bangladesh's work with India, the collaboration with India and the rest of the Indo-Pacific on the Oceans Initiative, on Bay of Bengal Initiative, on maritime security, and on working the blue economy, because blue economy, the maritime economy that India and Bangladesh can work on together is very important and valuable for both countries. We often don't realize that our maritime boundary relationship with Bangladesh, our maritime border with Bangladesh, is the source of so much valuable economic cooperation for fishing, for deep sea exploration, for oil and petroleum exploration. So this is a very important future aspect for the economic growth of India and Bangladesh, for bringing prosperity to the people of both our countries. What they have done, what they are working on now, the program they have initiated and agreed upon today will yield very rich dividends in the future for the benefit of both peoples. And these programs that have been agreed upon have really got the focus of the young people at heart, because the young educated groups in both countries will work on these areas. They will get jobs in these areas. And we are telling them that, look, let us work together for our benefit so that both countries grow together and we avoid problems of extremism, radicalization, and work together on counterterrorism issues.
Ambassador Sikri, connectivity continues to be the central pillar of India-Bangladesh ties. Could you shed some more light on this aspect of bilateral ties and what the talks involved here?
Yes, Prime Minister in his press statement even mentioned this morning, and Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina herself has mentioned, that India and Bangladesh are working to restore ties, connectivity links that were torn apart after the 1965 India-Pakistan war, when all connectivity between India and the then East Pakistan was completely severed. For millennia, for time immemorial, this connectivity was there. But in 65, it was cut completely. All land, water, rail, air, everything was stopped. Now, after efforts in the last 10 years, we have been able to restore full connectivity as it was in 1965. Now, we've just heard about the Akhora-Agartala rail link that was inaugurated in 1st November 2023. This is very valuable. When I was in Bangladesh as High Commissioner, we did the land survey for this rail link. I visited that place. I remember walking on these embankments in that area where they had created the technical survey for the alignment of the rail line. And this has now come into fruition, and it's a great advantage because all goods from Tripura can now come to Bangladesh and through Bangladesh to other parts of India, or they can go through Chittagong to the rest of the world. This is very, very important indeed. The second important connectivity is between Khulna on the Bangladesh-India border and the Mongla port. This is another very important connectivity that is there. And now, the usage of Mongla Port and Chittagong Port by India, the agreement on that has been finalized. The standard operating procedure has been established. And now, with this rail link, we further strengthen the connectivity between India, Bangladesh, Northeast India, and Southeast Asia beyond that. So, these connectivity links are very vital to the geographic integration of South and Southeast Asia, which will bring more trade and commerce and tourism between these parts of the world. So, I think that with these links that have been established under the joint cooperation between Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina and Prime Minister Modi, we will see a great prosperity coming to South Asia and Southeast Asia. Let us take connectivity within South Asia on the electricity grid. We now see that Bangladesh can import electricity from Nepal via the Indian grid. Now, this is so unique. It's never happened in South Asia before. Already, we had got India and Bangladesh cooperating on power grid connectivity between, West Bengal and the western parts of Bangladesh. But now we have 3-country cooperation. So electricity power lines from Nepal will bring power to Bangladesh through India using the Indian power grid. Now, this 3-partner cooperation, what is called the BBIN, Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, and Nepal, is so valuable because we are sharing assets. When power is generated, it must be utilized immediately. There is no storage for power. So when 3 countries are cooperating, we are making maximum usage of power generating capacity. We are allowing all the countries to benefit from economic development and power generation in any other country. So from Bhutan also, Bangladesh wants to import power electricity from Nepal. From Nepal, it's already done. And from Bhutan as well, again through Indian power grid. So this also is being worked on. So you're going to have this Bhutan, Bangladesh, India, Nepal cooperation, which is a very vital sub-regional group within SAARC, which is working very well and shows how, the countries of South Asia can develop this cooperation for mutual benefit. So I think that this is a really very, very valuable outcome of the visit by Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina.
Okay, Ambassador Sikri, lastly, India will soon be sending a technical team to Bangladesh for conservation and management of the Teesta River waters. Could you shed some more light on this?
Yes, I think that this is a very vital decision because, at least in Bangladesh, this issue of the Teesta waters had become a big issue. We know that an agreement on Teesta river water sharing was initialed more than a decade back. I mean, maybe 2011 or something. And but it could never come into fruition because we know that, the government of West Bengal had objections to it. But the key issue always, even in the initialing of that agreement, I've been saying this for many, many years now, that you agree to water sharing, you agree to percentages, but percentage of what? What is the quantum of water in the river? And we all know that with the melting of the glaciers from where the Teesta River starts, high up in Sikkim, in the mountain region of Sikkim, that these melting of glaciers has meant that while there's huge flooding during the monsoon season, there is extremely small water supply during the dry season. And in the Teesta River, you have a 7 months dry season where there is such a small water supply for both countries that you cannot grow agricultural crops. So I think that India and Bangladesh have come to a very wise decision that the key factor today is water conservation and water management.
Yes.
We know that there is a huge water supply during the rainy season, as we are seeing now. There's flooding, but then the water goes into the sea. It's finished, it's gone, you can't get it back. So a lot of crops of the dry season have to be changed. We have to build storages either in Sikkim, either in West Bengal or in Bangladesh. And Bangladesh has a very big project for developing the Tista river water basin in their country. And India has offered full help to that. India has offered full financial assistance to that. And I think this visit of the technical team to Bangladesh to study on the spot survey as to in what ways this project can be finalized, in what ways the feasibility study, the project proposal can be finalized, this will be very important. I do hope that the delegation will go very quickly and we'll have strong outcomes of this.
All right, we'll leave it here. Thank you very much, Ambassador Veena Sikri, for your analysis on this visit of Sheikh Hasina to New Delhi. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on. Let's take a look at other stories making news in India today. Long lines of people were seen queuing up on Saturday to fetch water from tankers across parts of the national capital as the city continued to sizzle in the summer heat. Death toll in Tamil Nadu Hooch tragedy has risen to 53, prompting political and judicial reactions. The people died after consuming illicit liquor in Kallakurichi district of the southern Indian state of Tamil Nadu. The annual Ambubachi Mela or fair at Kamakhya temple in Assam's Guwahati commenced today as the temple doors closed and the worship stopped for the next 4 days. The Ambubachi Mela is the celebration of the yearly menstruation course of goddess Kamakhya, during which the temple remains shut. On the occasion of Dev Snana Purnima, thousands of devotees visited India's Puri to witness the Snana Yatra of Lord Jagannath and his siblings. Deva Snana Purnima, also known as Snana Yatra, is a yearly bathing festival of Lord Jagannath. This bathing ritual is carried out in the eastern state of Odisha before the famous Rath Yatra festival of the state. And very quickly, let's find out what else is making news around the world. In Turkey, a massive wildfire has killed 12 people and injured over 75 as it swept through the predominantly Kurdish southeast. Hundreds of animals have perished in the blaze that rode across the dry landscape. Sicilians flocked to the beach to cool off as they braved scorching temperatures. Italy's Sicily has been bracing for an intense heat wave, with temperatures expected to soar above 40 degrees Celsius in the island's interior parts on the weekend. A satellite developed by China and France that is said to be the most powerful tool for studying the farthest explosion of stars was launched into orbit on Saturday. It is the first astronomical satellite developed by China and France. The satellite will study phenomena including the gamma-ray bursts. Still to come on DD India News Hour. Sri Lankan President has thanked India for the financial support provided during its tough economic crisis. And Indian compound women's team wins hat-trick of gold medals at the Archery World Cup in Antalya. We just don't bring you the news as it unfolds. We get to the heart of the matter.
We don't just present facts, we demystify complex social, political and economic events.
We break stories that shape the world's present and future because you deserve the truth.
I am Tanvi Taneja from New Delhi.
I'm Ollie Barrett from London.
I'm Nick Harper from Washington, D.C.
Join us on DD India Global Monday to Friday at these times. Thank you for staying with us. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Tanvi Taneja. On to the paper leak controversy in India. The Appointments Committee of the Cabinet has approved the assignment of additional charge of the post of Director General of National Testing Agency, Ministry of Education, to Pradeep Singh Kharola, who is the Chairman and Managing Director of the India Trade Promotion Organisation. The Appointments Committee of the Cabinet also approved placing the services of Subodh Kumar Singh, Director General, National Testing Agency, on compulsory wait in the Department of Personnel and Training. So, amid the controversy over national eligibility cum entrance test, NEET UG results and the cancellation of University Grants Commission National Eligibility Exam or UGC NET due to paper leak, the centre on Friday operationalized a stringent law that aims to curb malpractices and irregularities in competitive examinations. The Public Examinations Prevention of Unfair Means Act 2024, passed by Parliament in February, aims to prevent unfair means in public examinations conducted by the UPSC, that's Union Public Service Commission, the SSC, Staff Selection Commission, the Railways, Banking Recruitment Examinations and the National Testing Agency, among others. The law entails provisions for a maximum jail term of 10 years and a fine of up to 1 crore rupees for offenders. India's Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan, in a social media post on X today, said that transparent, tamper-free and zero-error examinations is a commitment. Setting up of the high-level committee of experts is the first of a series of steps to improve efficiency of the examination process, put an end to all possible malpractices, strengthen data security protocols and overhaul and reform of the NTA, that's National Testing Agency. Student interests and their bright future will always be our government's top priority, wrote the Education Minister on X. India's Ministry of Education has also constituted a high-level committee of experts under the chairmanship of Dr. K. Radhakrishnan, former chairman of ISRO and Chairman Board of Governors IIT Kanpur, to ensure transparent, smooth and fair conduct of examinations. The committee will make recommendations on reforms in mechanism of the examination process that will suggest measures to improve the efficiency of the system and also suggest improvement in data security protocols that include examination of existing security protocols related to paper setting. And third, on the structure and functioning of the National Testing Agency. This includes assessment of the grievance redressal mechanism of the agency. The committee will submit its report to the Education Ministry of India within 2 months. University Grants Commission Chairman M. Jagadesh Kumar, in a statement, said that forming a high-level committee of experts with Dr. K. Radhakrishnan as chairman is a welcome step towards assuring entrance examinations transparent, smooth and fair conduct. The committee's emphasis on recommending reforms in the examination process, enhancing data security protocols and improving the National Testing Agency's structure and functioning will strengthen our national entrance examination system, he said. Protecting students' interest and their future is the government's priority, he added.
Welcome step, forming a high-level committee under the chairmanship of Dr. K. Radhakrishnan as chairman is a necessary and correct step towards assuring the entrance examinations transparent, smooth and fair conduct. The committee's emphasis on recommending reforms in the examination process and enhancing the data security and providing the NTA's structure and functioning, it will definitely strengthen our national entrance examination system. Protecting students' interests and their future will continue to be our top priority, and it should be our top priority.
In a related development, the National Testing Agency has postponed the CSIR UGC NET exam scheduled to take place from June 25th. The NTA of India, in a statement, said that the joint CSIR UGC NET examination June 2024 is being postponed due to unavoidable circumstances as well as due to logistic issues. It further said that the revised schedule for the conduct of this exam will be announced later through the official website, and the candidates are advised to keep visiting the official website for more. Staying in the region, Sri Lankan President Ranil Wickremesinghe has expressed gratitude for India's financial support that helped the island nation survive 2 tough years of economic crisis. Addressing the 31st All India partners meet in Colombo, Wickramasinghe emphasized his commitment towards maintaining a strong partnership with India. The President's media division took to X and mentioned that in the bilateral relationship, sustainable energy is one of the grave areas that is being worked upon. Sri Lankan President also recalled his recent visit to India to attend the swearing-in of the new government. You're watching DD India News Hour. Time now for some sporting action. And the unbeaten Indian compound women's archery team of Jyoti Sureka Vennam, Aditi Swami and Parneet Kaur completed a hat-trick of World Cup gold medals on Saturday. The top seed Indian trio defeated Estonia's Lisele Jatma, Mire Maritapas and Maris Tetsmun 232 to 229 in a one-sided final in Turkey's Antalya to win the gold medal in the Archery World Cup Stage 3. Jyoti Sureka Vennam, Aditi Swami and Parneet Kaur, who have been unbeaten this season, also won the gold medals at World Cup Stage 1 and Stage 2 in Shanghai and in Yenshaw. Indian tennis star Sumit Nagal on Saturday confirmed that he is officially qualified for the men's singles event of the upcoming Paris Olympics. The Paris Games will be his second stint in the Olympics, having also qualified for the 2020 Tokyo Games, where he made it to the second round. Nagal was one of the alternates, but with the number of withdrawals of those ranked higher than him increasing, he is set to make the cut when the ITF releases the official entry list on July the 4th. The 26-year-old Nagal has been making the waves since the start of the 2024 season as he qualified for the main draw of the Australian Open, where he made it to the second round with an upset win over the then world number 37, Alexander Bublik. And talking of Paris Olympics, well, they are just over a month away now, and it is hoped to be the greenest ever games. DD India's Ross Cullen has more from Paris.
Paris 2024 is just around the corner, with the sporting action set to begin on July the 24th. And the organisers say they have turned a corner in terms of environmental responsibility. The architects, engineers and construction companies have tried to use wood, recycled materials and low-carbon cement in the Olympic venues.
So if you want to create better conditions, especially in urban environments, you have to be driven by sustainability, and we need in everything that we're doing, as you say, to be creative, how we can bring more with doing actually less.
And the water in the Olympic pools is being heated by capturing the heat output from a nearby data centre. All these measures contribute to the ambition of limiting emissions to around 1.7 million tonnes of CO2, half that of the previous Summer Games in London, Rio and Tokyo.
One important way of reducing emissions is to reduce what you build, right? So first is to avoid emissions by not building and using what exists or also temporary infrastructures. And that's what we're using. 95% of our sports infrastructures are existing or temporary.
The Paris 2024 green ambitions are not limited to this summer. These apartments, where elite athletes will be staying during the competition, will be converted into housing for locals after the Games. Building swimming pools along the River Seine and converting Olympic venues into new neighbourhoods are two of the main legacy aims for Paris 2024. Ensuring that the Games are also remembered for their sustainability achievements is another, and something the organisers consider just as important. Ross Cullen in Paris reporting for DD India.
And with that, we wrap up this edition of DD India News Hour. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly Twitter and Instagram at DD India Live. And for those on the go, you can catch all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on our DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. You can scan the QR code on the screen to download now. So we will be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja from my entire team here in New Delhi. Thank you for watching. Namaskar.